Many leaders and organizations are handling restructuring just all wrong. Now, teams are being reshaped everywhere. It's a prevalent conversation that's all across news lines. And we're thinking through budgets, mergers, and really how to navigate these new teams. I'm sure you've seen many of the headlines around the changes in org charts, around the firing of whole divisions, around layoffs in just about every industry. And this AI conversation, a tool that we were told is going to make our lives absolutely easier. In a lot of ways it is. And in some ways it's throwing these jabs at the job market that we're having a hard time adjusting to. For the past couple of years, I've had the opportunity to work with leaders at the AVP level, the associate or assistant vice president level, and leaders at the director level, many of whom have had to navigate this restructuring or reorganizing or whatever buzzword or corporate word we put on top of it. And many of them come back with the same response. They say, the challenge for us isn't necessarily the workload. In some cases it is, but it isn't necessarily the workload. It's the reality that we had a highly functioning team, a team that worked really, really well together. And now many of the core elements of that team are just no longer with us. So how do I get to a place where we regain trust, that we find our sense of synergy again? Because that's gone. And how do we make these connections in such an uncertain environment? And some people were a part of teams that were restructured. Some of the leaders that I've been working with over the past couple of years inherited these restructured teams, and they wrestled with what exactly they were going to do. So if my team were restructured tomorrow, here is the exact workshop that I would run. Here's the playbook. And when we talk about team alignment, because that's what we're really looking to do. How do we align our team again or align our team for the first time? Here's what I would focus on. And I would take half a day to a day to do this. And this would not be a one-off scenario either. I would probably run this workshop, this session once a quarter, 4 times a year, just to make sure that we're intentional about making sure our team is aligned, because this is not going to be the last change that our organization goes through. It's not going to be the last change that our team goes through. And remember, when we talk about organizational change, we're talking about 2 things. One is the catalyst, the event that prompts, that leads to things being different. We call that the change. Our team is restructured. The restructuring of our team, we'll call that our change. People are gone now. The transition is the internal psychological adjustment that people make to the change. And these AVPs and these directors, their comments let me know that, yeah, things are different. And they're having a difficult time adjusting. They're having a difficult time making that internal psychological adjustment to what has changed. So here's what I would run. Here's the alignment session, alignment workshop. We would spend a half day up to a full day, maybe even just a little bit more running this particular session. I'm going to give you the playbook, give you the outline for this. Now, the first thing that we would address, because there's some common mistakes that leaders make, that organizations make whenever there's a restructuring. The first thing that we would make sure to do is to not ignore emotions. We would not ignore emotions. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to run an emotional check-in. this is going to be big. I'm either going to use some tools from Riders and Elephants around emotional social work culture or emotional change. We can't ignore how people are feeling about the work, because how you feel impacts your work. And there needs to be time, there needs to be space, frame some exercises around how people are feeling it, and also how they want to feel when they're at their best. We would definitely have that conversation, because it's sad that in many spaces we have this expectation that people do their best work, their quality work, but we don't give them the space and place to talk about how they're feeling about the work and how they feel about what's changed at work. The second thing that I would do in this half day or full day session, I would bring some attention to what's missing. What are we missing? What has changed? Now, there are times when a change is made. We pretend, or leadership pretends, or organizational culture, our practice is to pretend like nothing has happened. So I would want to spend some time for us to identify these puzzle pieces that are missing. Yes, people fall into the puzzle pieces that are missing. Processes have changed. What has been impacted in our culture? What's missing now? And let's bring some acknowledgement to that. We can't ignore. We can't ignore our emotions, and we can't ignore what's missing, because restructuring, it creates loss. It creates this sense of loss, and we don't want to rush past or gloss over bringing some recognition to the people who have been critical to our growth up to this point, to what our team looks like, and acknowledge that the fact that we're going to miss them, that it's going to be tough for us. In this half day to full day session, we would also spend some time around re-identifying or identifying for the first time our shared language. And for shared language, I would use a tool. I would use DISC. I would use Working Genius. I would use SDI. I would use some sort of assessment that can ground us in a sense of reality, that's impartial, presents everyone at a level playing field, and then it gives us an opportunity to leverage this shared language as we move forward. You got to think about it. Now that the structure of the team is different, the relationships are going to change in some capacity, and we may have forgotten critical information on what it means to work together, to understand behavioral preference if we're using DISC, to understand how we navigate each other in conflict and under stress as we're using SDI, or even to reflect on how we're seeing the opportunities in front of us. Some of us are viewing it at a 35,000 feet level, and some of us are really close to the ground from an execution perspective. And we would use Working Genius to have those conversations. This shared language, check emotions, identify what's missing, those pieces, and then leverage this shared language as we look to move forward together, which is going to be so important. I would then lead us through a conversation around roles and goals. Well, it's 5 of us now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, let's say it was 4 of us on our team, and then we added somebody. We picked up another team member along the way. So we have to talk about what are our goals now. At this point, what are our goals? And at this point, what are the roles that we take on as we push toward those goals? In some cases, the roles need to be reconfigured as a result of the restructuring. We have to figure out, hey, this is the sandbox that we're playing in, and here are the terms and conditions of being a part of this sandbox. And how do we support each other? Supporting each other is much easier if we focus on this sense of shared language. It's going to be easier as we look at this shared language. So we check in emotionally, we identify what's missing, we ground ourselves in a shared language. And as we discuss roles and goals, it is easier to navigate because now we have this resource at our disposal. The final thing that I'm going to do, and some of you are saying to yourself as you're looking through the first 4 pieces, Pierre, that you don't try to do that in half a day. That really needs to be a full day. You're thinking about your team. You're thinking about the restructuring, the realignment, the reconfiguration that's going on in your business right now. And you're saying, knowing your people, it really needs to be a longer session. I encourage you, stretch it out over a day or 2 if you need to get the most out of this experience. This isn't just a rah moment. This is not just a feel good session. This is doing the work so that you can move yourself and your team forward. Here's the last thing that I would focus on. And we miss this. We miss this when things change. And this is usually the moment when I facilitate sessions like this with the teams. This is the moment when the room shifts. This is the moment when it shifts. It's when we, as a team, we've checked in emotionally, we've identified what's missing. We start to look this picture toward the future. We start to look at this path because now our goals here, this path, this journey that we're going on together, and we create this vivid picture of what future success will look like. What's our shared success picture? Giving our team now this vivid mental image, or constructed with a Sharpie and Post-it notes. And I always love a good flip chart, a graphic, a memento from our half day to day long session that we can all take pictures on, that we could put on our walls, or we could tape to our monitors. This clear picture of future success for us 6 months from now, considering all the changes that we're navigating, considering our goals and our roles, considering our adjustments to what's missing, considering our shared language. 6 months from now, here's what we want our team to look like as we go on this journey of success together. So we got to remember that when a team, when an organization, when a business goes through a restructuring process, that it's not just an operational adjustment. It's emotional too. It's an emotional adjustment. And with that in mind, you need to ask yourself, if your team was restructured tomorrow, which of these conversations would you skip? Would you skip that emotional check-in? How's everyone feeling? Would you skip the conversation around identifying the missing pieces? Would you skip the shared language and the assessment? Would you skip the conversation on how we navigate our goals and our roles at this point? Or would you skip creating that vivid picture of what success looks like for us now? Which of these would you skip if your team was restructured tomorrow? And if you chose to skip any one of these elements, what exactly would it cost your team?